foliage is still changing colors, albeit at a slow rate. And as the beavers continue to drag tree branches to their food cache, their trails are getting larger. And more rabbits are exploiting spilt bird food. And of course, the chipmunks are too.
Oh, that's cool.
And the Canada geese are congregating in huge flocks. Most of them are not heading south just yet. In fact, this flock is actually heading north. They are most likely commuting to a food source, such as a lake or a farm field. Some of these may not even fly south at all, as long as they have open water and a consistent food source. We've been seeing between 600 and 800 a day, probably the same geese day after day, but we expect the numbers to get larger, to number in the thousands as we progress farther into the fall. Sparrows are moving into the sanctuary in large numbers. This is a song sparrow, but we also get some rarer sparrows migrating through, such as Lincoln sparrows and swamp sparrows. Tamaracks are one of the few coniferous trees whose needles change colors and drop like broadleaf trees. They also seem to be a magnet for kinglets. Here is a golden-crowned kinglet. Golden-crowned kinglets are tiny, hyperactive birds, constantly foraging for insects. For such a tiny bird, they lay a surprisingly large amount of eggs, 8 or 9 on average, but sometimes up to 11. They nest in coniferous forests of the far north, especially fir and spruce forests. They are migrating from their breeding grounds now, although this may be the final stop for some of them. Even outside of breeding season, they show a high preference for the conifers. And here is the golden crown's close relative, the ruby-crowned kinglet. The ruby crown is not always visible, only when they're excited and raise their crest. Like the golden-crowned kinglet, the ruby-crowned also breeds in northern coniferous forests and is on its way south for the winter. However, during the winter months, the ruby-crowned kinglets are more apt to be found in open, mixed woodlands or deciduous woods. Although the kinglets are migrating through right on time, this scarlet tanager is extremely late. It does appear to be immature, so maybe it missed the memo this first time around. Our most rare sighting of the week was this juvenile red-shouldered hawk. Red-shouldered hawks are known to breed this far north, but are much more common in the south.
Here's your chance.
Historically, they were common here, but deforestation has devastated their populations. This one is obviously a juvenile because it does not yet have the red shoulders, and the tail bands are very narrow. They do have a similar body shape to their close relatives, the red tails and the broad-winged hawks, but their wings and tails are proportionately longer. Our patch of cutleaf grape fern seems to have shrunken since last year, but the ones that are there are putting forth spore pods. And many of the mosses, such as this oil spill moss, are also putting forth spore pods. There's also more mushrooms fruiting this week, such as these alcohol inkies. These are a perfectly edible mushroom. However, if consumed with alcohol, they do become toxic. And this mushroom, in the same genus as the other inkies, Coprinus, also holds similar properties. This is the Japanese parasol. This thin, leathery, and very common polypore is the turkey tail. This is the same mushroom after it matured a couple days later. And this is another turkey tail. As you can see, they are highly variable in color. This is an Ichnoderma resinosum, commonly known as late fall polypore. Right now, it has the consistency of a marshmallow. As it matures, it will continue to exude this amber sap until it is thin, hard, and dry. And this exceedingly cool slime mold is Leocarpus fragilis. And this is a fairly common mushroom, the gray veil amanita. Like many other amanitas, it is probably poisonous, although there are no recorded poisonings from this mushroom. Gem-studded puffballs are still popping up all over the sanctuary. And we've even found one giant puffball. We've had a cluster of logs in the woods loaded with this green elf cup. The mycelium of this fungus are known to stain the wood a blue-green color. And this is the mystery mushroom of the week, and it was found dead on the ground the following day. We did find a few interesting invertebrates this week. While digging the new transfer garden, I did dig into another ant nursery. I always feel slightly guilty when I do so, but it is fascinating to see them at work. And this hairy black caterpillar is a giant leopard moth caterpillar. It is easy to identify when it turns its body and you can see the red bands. For the past several weeks, we've seen plenty of these black corsairs, but just lately, it seems that they've been mating. And here's a jumping spider on the face of a rock. It's amazing how well they blend in. Our vehicle started getting stuck in the ruts it's made, so we filled it in with stone and gravel from the creek. In the process, we found plenty of salamanders, including the two-line salamander and the spring salamander, the first one ever found on the sanctuary. And that wraps up another great week at Spring Farm Care's Nature Sanctuary.